You're sitting in a group conversation. Everyone is talking, laughing, interrupting each other, and you actually have something to say. A thought forms in your mind, but by the time there's a pause, you've already decided not to say it. The moment passes, someone else starts speaking, and somehow you disappear again. Not physically, but socially. And afterward, the question quietly follows you home. Why do I do this? Because the strange part is, you're not empty. Your mind was full the whole time. So what exactly made it go silent? If this happens to you, you probably know the pattern well. The conversation starts normally. At first, you're listening. Then, an idea appears in your mind. Maybe a story, maybe a perspective, maybe a joke. You prepare to say it, but suddenly your brain begins running calculations. Is this interesting enough? What if I interrupt someone? What if it sounds awkward? The window to speak closes, and a few seconds later, the topic has already changed. After the conversation ends, something strange happens. Your thoughts return. Now you can clearly see what you could have said. The perfect sentence arrives 20 minutes too late. Psychologists sometimes call this post-event processing, the mind replaying social moments after they're over. But the deeper experience isn't just silence, it's identity. Because when this happens repeatedly, a quiet belief forms. Maybe I'm just not the type of person people listen to. So you adapt. You become the listener, the observer, the one who nods and smiles while others fill the room. And slowly your brain begins treating silence as your social role. But something important is happening beneath the surface. This pattern isn't random, and it isn't about intelligence or personality. It's about how the brain learns to manage social risk. And once you see the mechanism, the silence starts making sense. Most people assume disappearing in conversations means one of two things. Either you're shy or you lack confidence. But psychology tells a more interesting story. Your brain is doing something very specific. It's running social threat prediction. Humans evolved in groups, and historically, social rejection carried serious consequences. Being ignored, excluded, or embarrassed in front of others triggered the same stress systems as physical danger. So, the brain developed a protective ability. It predicts social outcomes before you act. This is sometimes called social forecasting. The brain simulates possible reactions. Will people laugh? Will they interrupt? Will the comment land awkwardly? If those predictions contain too much uncertainty, the brain chooses the safest option: silence. Not because you have nothing to say, but because your nervous system believes speaking carries risk. And the brain always prioritizes avoiding social pain over expressing ideas. In other words, you didn't disappear. Your brain quietly protected you. But that raises an important question. If the mind is trying to keep you safe, why does this silence start feeling so frustrating? To answer that, we need to look inside the brain itself. Inside your brain, two systems interact during social moments: the amygdala and the prefrontal cortex. The amygdala scans for social threats, things like judgment, embarrassment, or rejection. The prefrontal cortex handles planning and speech. When you want to speak, the prefrontal cortex begins organizing your thought into words. But if the amygdala detects potential social risk, it interrupts. This creates a subtle internal pause. Your brain starts running quick simulations. Imagine it like a microphone system. Your prefrontal cortex is the speaker. Your amygdala is the sound engineer. If the engineer thinks there might be feedback noise, they lower the volume. Not permanently, just enough to prevent disruption. In people who often disappear in conversations, the sound engineer has become extra cautious. The brain learned, sometimes through past experiences, that speaking could lead to uncomfortable moments. Being interrupted, being misunderstood, being laughed at. Even small moments can train the system. So the amygdala increases its sensitivity. It signals the brain, wait, check again, Make sure this is safe. The result? Your thoughts remain inside, even when they were perfectly valid. But here's the important part. The system isn't permanent. The brain adjusts based on experience, which means the same mechanism that created the silence can also slowly reverse it. But the solution isn't forcing yourself to suddenly dominate conversations. It's something much more subtle. 1. Lower the speaking threshold. Most people who disappear in conversations unknowingly set a very high bar for speaking. The comment must be interesting, clear, well-timed. This creates pressure. Instead, lower the threshold. Speak when your thought is 70% ready, not 100%. Why this works? The brain learns through prediction error. When you speak imperfectly and nothing bad happens, the amygdala updates its threat model. Example: instead of waiting to deliver the perfect story, say a short observation. Wait, that reminds me of something funny. Even small contributions retrain the system. 2. Use the bridge technique. One reason people disappear is timing. Group conversations move fast. The bridge technique helps you enter the flow. Start with a short bridge phrase. That's interesting because, or something similar happened to me. Or, actually, I was thinking about that too. Why this works? These phrases signal to the group that you're joining the thread. They buy your brain time to finish the thought. Example: instead of jumping straight into a long explanation, you bridge first. This reduces cognitive load and makes speaking feel easier. Here's the idea to remember. Your silence wasn't a personality flaw. It was a protective prediction system. Your brain learned to scan social situations carefully, to avoid embarrassment, to prevent rejection. But protection can sometimes become overprotection, like a smoke detector that goes off even when someone makes toast. The goal isn't to remove the detector, it's to recalibrate it. You do that through small signals to your brain: speaking earlier, speaking imperfectly, speaking briefly. Each moment teaches the nervous system something new, that your voice doesn't cause danger. And slowly, the brain updates its prediction. The room becomes quieter inside your head, even when the conversation around you stays loud. If you've spent years disappearing in conversations, you may have started believing something about yourself. That you're just quieter than everyone else. That your thoughts don't arrive fast enough. Or that other people are simply better at speaking. But the truth is quieter than that. Your voice was never missing. It was just paused. Paused by a brain trying to protect you from moments that felt uncertain. And protection, when it lasts too long, can start to look like invisibility. But every small moment you choose to speak, even imperfectly, even briefly, you're teaching your brain something new, that your thoughts belong in the room too. And eventually, something subtle begins to change. You stop waiting for the perfect moment to speak and start realizing your presence was part of the conversation all along.